What you eat doesn't just affect your physical health, it also has a significant impact on your mental health as well. Although many of us love eating pizza and cheesecakes, eating too much fast food can be bad for our mental health just as it can be bad for our physical health. Today in this video, I want to discuss some of the research that's been done on the relationship between diet and mental health. I first want to look at what foods have been shown to improve our mental health and what foods have been shown to have the opposite effect and worsen our mental health. Then I want to look at how certain foods and diets affect our mental health from a nutritional standpoint. Alright, without further ado, let's get into those papers. The first study I want to look at is titled Food and Mental Health: Relationship between Food and Perceived Stress and Depressive Symptoms among University Students in the United Kingdom. The authors studied the association between consumption of certain categories of food and stress and depressive symptoms. The study was conducted on undergraduate students from 7 different universities in the UK, and the foods were separated into 12 different categories such as fast food/canned food, fresh fruits, fish/seafood, and dairy/dairy products. This study had some interesting results, the first of which was that certain categories of food affected males and females differently. The analysis found that a higher consumption of unhealthy foods, such as sweets, cookies, snacks, and fast food, increased perceived stress in females only, and that a higher consumption of fish and seafood decreased depressive symptoms in males only. What did affect both males and females was that eating more unhealthy foods like sweets, cookies, snacks, or fast food increased depressive symptoms, and eating more healthy foods like fresh fruits, salads, and cooked vegetables decreased depressive symptoms. The study also found that consuming more or less lemonade/soft drinks, meat/sausage products, dairy/dairy products, and cereal/cereal products didn't really affect perceived stress or depressive symptoms in both males and females. Another study titled Fast Food and Commercial Baked Goods Consumption and the Risk of Depression had a similar observation with regards to eating fast foods. It found that a higher risk of depression was associated with a higher consumption of fast food such as hamburgers, sausages, and pizza. The paper also found that a higher consumption of commercial baked goods was also positively associated with depressive disorders, but the relationship was non-linear. A third study titled Dietary Patterns and Depressive Symptoms Among Japanese Men and Women found a connection similar to those of the previous 2 studies. Japanese who follow a healthy diet characterized by a higher consumption of vegetables, fruit, soy products, and mushrooms were less likely to show depressive symptoms compared to Japanese people that followed a more animal food-based diet or westernized breakfast diet. The animal food-based diet was characterized by higher consumption of fish and animal-based products such as fish, chicken, liver, and egg, while the westernized breakfast diet was characterized by a higher consumption of bread, milk, and yogurt, and confectionaries, which are foods that are rich in sugar and carbohydrates like donuts and cakes. The authors of this paper reference another paper titled Dietary Pattern and Depressive Symptoms in Middle Age, which was a similar study done to examine the association between dietary patterns and depression, but this study was done in Europe instead of Japan. This study also found that people who ate a diet rich in whole foods, which are diets heavily loaded with vegetables, fruits, and fish, were less likely to be depressed than those who ate a diet rich in processed foods, which is a diet loaded with sweetened desserts, fried food, processed meat, refined grains, and high-fat dairy products. So why is it that people who eat lots of fruits and vegetables and fish and have what we consider a healthy diet less depressed? How does that tie in with our brain chemistry? Well, the simple answer is that fruits, vegetables, fish, and other healthy foods contain the nutrients that are important for our brain function and our mental health, while fast foods and sweets have nutrients and other chemicals that do the opposite and worsen it. Let's start by looking at the nutrients that are good for our mental health, and then move on to the ones that are bad for our mental health. The first nutrient and study I want to talk about is this one by Kwanpin Su and Co. The authors state that the consumption of omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA, was responsible for improvements in symptoms of major depressive disorder, as well as improvements in schizophrenic symptoms. The authors also state that patients with major depression have lower levels of EPA and omega-3 fatty acids. EPA and other omega-3s are commonly found in fish and other seafood, and may explain why having a diet with fish and seafood in it lowered the risk or symptoms of depression in our other studies. This article, titled Understanding Nutrition, Depression, and Mental Illnesses, also mentions the importance of omega-3 fatty acids, but also discusses the importance of other micro and macronutrients, one of which are vitamin Bs. Adequate consumption of vitamin Bs, such as vitamin B1, B2, B6, and vitamin B12, are important for regulating your mood and preventing symptoms of depression. The article also mentions that an adequate amount of carbohydrates are necessary, as they can affect our mood and behavior. Consuming carbohydrates triggers the release of insulin, which helps let blood sugar into your cells where it can then be used for energy. This then triggers the entry of tryptophan to the brain, which affects the level of neurotransmitters, which include chemicals such as serotonin and dopamine, chemicals that stabilize our mood and make us feel happy. Since the production of those neurotransmitters is triggered by carbohydrate-rich foods, a lack of carbohydrates in your diet may cause depressive symptoms and negatively affect your mood. The article states that foods with a low glycemic index, such as certain fruits and vegetables, whole grains, and pasta, are more likely to provide a more moderate but longer-lasting effect on brain chemistry, mood, and energy level, compared to foods with a high glycemic index, primarily sweets that tend to provide a more immediate but temporary effect. Moving on, proteins and the chain of amino acids they contain are another macronutrient the paper mentions as being important for our brain function and our mental health. As many of the neurotransmitters in the brain are made from amino acids, it's important that our diets have enough protein in them, and that our protein comes from multiple sources to make sure we get all the necessary types of amino acids as well. Now that we've looked at some of the main nutrients involved with improving our mental health, let's look at the culprits responsible for making it worse. Let's start off by taking a look at sugar, by looking at a study titled Sugar Intake from Sweet Food and Beverages, Common Mental Disorder and Depression, Prospective Findings from the Whitehall 2 study. This study discusses the potential mechanisms of how an excessive intake of sugar can lead to depressive symptoms. The paper suggests that sugar intake could increase depression risk over its potential influence on BDNF levels and inflammation, which are both thought to cause depressive symptoms. Furthermore, the paper states that postprandial hypoglycemia, which is the sciencey way of saying low blood sugar after a meal, and addiction-like effects of sugar influencing neurotransmitters could link sugar intake with low mood. The authors also state that the pathway of postprandial hypoglycemia is also relevant in the context of the glycemic index, which has been shown to be associated with depression prevalence and incidence. As mentioned previously when talking about carbohydrates, sweets which are high in sugar tend to have a high glycemic index. After the effects of sugar wear off, it can cause mood swings or increased feelings of anxiety or irritability, more commonly known as a sugar crash. Moving on, fast foods contain lots of bad fats like trans fats, as opposed to oils like olive oil or fish oil that are considered good fats. The consumption of bad fats results in an increase in LDL, also known as bad cholesterol, and reductions in HDL, also known as good cholesterol. Although this article by Kathleen Doheny mentions this with regard to your heart, other studies link the impact of cholesterol on your mental health. Take this article by Stuart Tetters & Co., for example. Titled Low Cholesterol is Associated with Depression Among U.S. Household Population, the authors found that too little or too much LDL cholesterol increases the risk of severe depression in men, and lower amounts of HDL cholesterol was associated with an elevated odds of severe depression in women. Like with sugars, consuming too much trans fats can cause inflammation in parts of your body, including the brain, which can cause damage to the neurons and interfere with the brain's neurotransmitters. So, summarizing everything up, people eating a healthy diet containing more healthy foods such as fresh fruits, vegetables, and soy products have decreased depressive symptoms and risk of depression, while eating an unhealthy diet containing more fast foods, snacks, and sweets had the opposite effect and increased depressive symptoms and the risk of depression. This effect is likely due to the healthier diet containing more nutrients necessary for our brain chemistry to work the way it's supposed to, and because fast foods and sweets contain high amounts of sugar and trans fats, which cause inflammation and negatively affect our brain chemistry. Alright, that's all I have for this video. If you want to go read the studies for yourselves, the links to those studies as well as the other articles and websites I referenced will be in the description below. I hope everyone watching found the video helpful, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace!